Hello dear friends and followers, welcome back to Microsoft Flight Simulator and another video. We are again going to fly the PMDG's 777. Second update was released, I believe yesterday or the day before, that fixed some of the things, improved the sounds and made some improvements to the flight model as well. What we are going to do today is we are going to take off from Istanbul for Schipol Airport in Amsterdam, and while we are en route we will discuss about a couple things that are different in long-haul flights than the domestic flights that are completed with narrow-body airliners. I was trying to do some research and watch some videos of the real-world pilots to learn about the long-haul flights and how they are different from the regular domestic flights or international flights that takes less than, let's say, 6 hours. Although this flight is not more than 6 hours, I think we will have an opportunity to discuss a couple things as we set up the aircraft for departure, as well as talk about some of the autopilot modes and how to better understand what our aircraft is trying to tell us while we are up in the air, climbing and cruising. Anyway, thanks for joining me today in this video, and I hope you enjoy the show. Sit back, relax, and I'll meet you guys in the cockpit in a little bit. Welcome to the flight deck of the 777. We are completely cold on the arc, and we will start with powering the aircraft, setting our flight plan, calculating our takeoff performance, and then eventually we will push back and be on our way. I will be using Beyond ATC as our ATC provider for an offline ATC support, and hoping to be on our way very shortly. So let's just do the preliminary cockpit pre-flight inspection before we power the aircraft. We'll go to the overhead, make sure all the hydraulics are off and the demand pumps are also in the off position. Wipers are off. I think PMDG needs to do some work with giving us a better cold and dark, because nav lights, I'm not sure if they are left on in real world by the mechanics, engineers who are setting up the aircraft for the pilots. Maybe that's true. I don't know. If you come across this video and a Boeing 777 pilot or an airline pilot, just let me know how this practice is in real world. I would like to know if that's something you can share. Anyway, there is really not much here. All the lights are off, fuel pumps are off, landing gear is down, speed brakes and flaps are retracted, speed brakes are stowed, parking brake, we'll set it on, engine fuel control switches are in the cutoff position, throttles are in the idle position, and reversers are not engaged. And that's, I think, enough checks to turn the battery power on. If you have watched 777 videos, I'm pretty sure you did if you are watching this one as well. So it's very easy compared to the 737. So we will turn the battery power on. And we already checked all these things. So we will turn the primary and secondary external power to on position. Next up is to provide power to the cabin and to the seats, and turn on our window heat. From here we can arm the emergency lights and turn on the flight recorder. We will wait a little bit. DRU is turned on after being turned off for 30 seconds. I like to wait just a little bit to turn it on. In the meantime, we can go down to our EFP and request the flight plan from SimBrief. There we go. We can also switch to Navigraph chart map and enlarge this. So that's our route, and we will come back to here for other things we need to do in the EFP. We are waiting for the screens to come online and then we will start programming our FMC, but let's go ahead and turn the DRE on and we'll do an overhead scan from left to right, top to bottom. DRE is on, passenger seats and cabin utility power is on, battery power and APU generator is on, external primary and secondary power is selected on. Backup generators are off. Left main and right main generators are off. Our engines are not running. This is normal. Emergency lights are armed. Window heat is on. Passenger oxygen is guarded. Hydraulics are off, except the engine hydraulics are on, but they are giving a fault because our engines are not running. All the demand pumps are switched off. No smoking is on. Passenger signs are off because we haven't refilled the aircraft yet. Master brightness and all the lights controls are good because we have a daylight flight. Landing lights are off. Nothing to do with the cargo fire panel and engine panel here. Starter is selected on auto start and starters are in the norm position for now. Fuel jettison, we don't touch anything here. Fuel pumps are showing off. Anti-ice is in auto for all anti-ice systems. Nav lights are on. Runway turn off, taxi and strobe lights are off. We can do a lights test while we are here. And that's the speaker test, which tells us that our screens are now on. Air conditioning panel is selected on. Temperature control is selected to auto. Cabin temperature is in the center position, which is normal. Left and right packs are in auto position, but currently turned off because there's no bleed air support provided to the system. APU bleed is auto, engine bleeds are on. Pressurization is selected auto. And right wiper is off. Coming down, our screens are on. We can turn our flight directors on. I'm just using the buttons on my controller to turn them on, left and right. And we will go down to our FMC and complete our position initialization after verifying the ident page. 777-300.2 GE engines 115 Bravo Lima. ARAC cycle is current. And we'll jump to position initialization. Reference import is Istanbul, Lima Tango Foxtrot Mike. We are currently at gate D13. And we'll grab the GPS position, which is close to the gate position. That's what I like to enter to verify our current position, and then that will start the align of the IRS system. We'll go to the route page here and request the route from SimBrief. We will set our payload and we will set our fuel. I hope they bring something to make this more realistic and maybe just coordinate this with GSX if the user has GSX installed, because instant setting of fuel and payload is sometimes not that realistic, but for now it'll be alright. So while we had the fuel loaded to the aircraft, we can turn the seat belts to on because we will be boarding our passengers very shortly. We'll go to the select route page. This still is not instant. We have to wait just a little bit. It's going to request the route for us. And once the route is requested, we will see the load button activated here, which will tell us that, oh, there's the route uplink. And let's take a look at the FMC messages here. Descent forecast uplink ready. We will talk about this here in a little bit. Wind data uplink ready. Performance init uplink. And route uplink ready. 4 messages, which are all expected. We will load the route. And what we are waiting is to see the activate button showing here, which tells us that the route is loaded into our FMC. It'll take a while, depends on how many waypoints you have on your flight. This is a short one, so it didn't take too long, but if you are doing a long haul from Europe to North America or Asia, that will take 9, 10, 11 hours. This is gonna take longer. We will activate, but do not execute yet because we haven't requested our clearance from ATC. we will select the page, and maybe we should just go and contact or listen to the ADIS first and then contact clearance delivery for our clearance. ADIS frequency for Istanbul is 128.85 or decimal 85, and we should hear the ADIS in a little bit.
Landing runways 34 left, 35 right, 36. Departing runways 34 right, 35 left, 36. Transition level 120. Temporary flight restrictions are in effect for Istanbul. Advise on initial contact you have information whiskey. Istanbul Airport information whiskey. 05450. Wind 045 at 15, few clouds at 2,200. Temperature 27. Dew point 22. PM 1010. Landing runways 34 left, 35 right, 36. Departing runways 34 right, 35 left, 36. Transition level 120. Temporary flight restrictions are in effect for Istanbul. Advise on initial contact you have information whiskey.
I think we got what we need. I already set the QNH to 1010. Departing runways are 34 right, 35 left, and 36. So we are expecting 35 left today. Temperature is 27 degrees. Transition altitude is 12,000, as we heard from the ADIS. And there are some restrictions in effect around the vicinity of the airport. So that's the ADIS information. We have information whiskey, and we are ready to contact clearance delivery, which is 129.175. Definitely need to invest into a radio panel. This sometimes gets too slow to adjust the frequency. But there's the clearance delivery frequency. And let's contact and request our clearance. Istanbul delivery, good morning. Turkish 1953 Heavy at stand D13 with information whiskey, requesting IFR clearance to Schipol Airport, Amsterdam.
Turkish 1953 Heavy, Istanbul delivery, information whiskey correct. Expect runway 35 left, TUD 4 Delta departure. Squawk 3024.
TUD 4 Delta departure. Squawk 3024. Turkish 1953 Heavy.
Turkish 1953 Heavy, read back correct. Contact ground 130.2 when ready for pushback or engine start.
Ground 130.2 when ready for pushback or engine start. Turkish 1953 Heavy, bye-bye.
Alright, so we got our clearance, runway 35 left via the TUD 4 Delta departure. And we can now execute this and go to our legs page and take a look. So if we switch to the plan mode, that's gonna show us our departure. As you see, we are flying the runway heading until this waypoint, and then slight left turn to 329er, and we have a speed and altitude restriction here, which is all programmed into the FMC, so we should be fine. We haven't given a initial climb altitude, so we will select according to our departure charts. So let's take a look at our charts and see what our departure looks like. Should be somewhere here. I think it is this one here. Let's just verify that. Yep, correct. Departure chart is now selected. And if we look and zoom in slightly, we are departing following runway heading for 5 DME and then making a left turn to 329er and following that for 12.8 miles to Foxtrot Mike 0900 waypoint, and then 307,288, and looks like there are no restrictions, so we will set the altitude. Anything above this, which we have in the flight management computer, so I am tempted to set the altitude to the transition altitude 12,000 feet, and that should take care of our FMC. Runway heading is 354, so we will select that too, and we need to start boarding our passengers and complete the rest of the setup.
Boarding requested.
Alright, so let's go ahead and complete the checklist. Oxygen we haven't tested, but we can quickly test. Alright, that's now done. Oxygen tested. Flight instruments heading 354. Altimeter is 1010, showing 310 feet roughly. That all checks, and pre-flight checklist is complete. Next one should be the before start checklist, which we are not ready just yet. We'll go and open our doors. That's what it's asking us.
Crew boarding starting.
And we will open the cargo doors. Alright, while the boarding is ongoing, we can continue with our performance calculation. We are given runway 35 left. And we can import the weights from the aircraft and import the weather. So QNH slightly changed 1011. We will take that into account. Calculate flaps 5, TO2 45 degrees Celsius and 4.86 trim with V speeds of V1 150, VR 154 and V2 159er. Alright, that's good. We'll go to the routes. Perf init, remember we have the perf init uplink, so we will accept this. That gives us flight level 380, 5.6 tons of reserve fuel, and a cruise center of gravity. We will select our zero fuel weight. That will just fill our gross weight of 231,000 kilograms, which is correct according to our performance calculation. Thrust limiter 45 degrees Celsius, TO2, just did it backwards, degrees, right, and flaps 5, 150, 154, 159er. Takeoff speeds will not be visible if we don't have the IRS aligned. What looks like our alignment is complete, so let's go ahead and input our takeoff speeds. Flaps 5, center of gravity is selected, gross weight is 231.0 and 150, 154, 159er. That's exactly matching our performance calculation, and that's our performance figures entered into the FMC. Couple things left to do. One, if we go to the progress page, the aircraft is expecting to land with 9.2 tons of fuel. If we go to the legs page and route data, we haven't loaded the wind information yet. That's one of the uplinks we received. We will click and load it and execute. And if we go and check, so that's still 8.6 in in this like mid-haul flights it doesn't change, but if you have a 12, 11 hour or 9-hour flight, the wind information changes the reserves that and your fuel burn. So obviously the cruise winds are important because of the distance, and if you get a tailwind that will impact your fuel burn, etc., etc. So that's one of the differences between the long haul flights as compared to the short flights. Anyway, so that's completed. And if you go to the WinAV and go to the third page, we have the descent forecast uplink that we haven't loaded yet. We will load that too, and that will give us the descent winds. And check the progress page back to make sure we will have enough reserve fuel when we land. 8.6 is greater than our reserves, so we should be fine. Alright, all the configuration is now complete. We can go ahead and start our APU because we are boarding the passengers, and we should provide some bleed air to the packs to control the temperature in the cabin. If we look at the air page, 31 degrees, it's pretty darn hot down there, so we should have some cold air blowing to the cabin to comfort our passengers. I think the last thing we need to do for our FMC is to set the V2, which was 159er, and that completes our FMC setup as well as our MCP setup, and the overhead is already completed. So we are gonna wait for the boarding to complete, and then we will continue with the rest of the procedures to leave the gate and taxi to the runway. I will see you once the boarding is completed. Welcome back, friends. Boarding is about to be completed. We have one more passenger to board, and that's about it. So the APU is running, the cabin is cooled now. The center is a little bit still hot, but the APU should take care of it. Let's go ahead and close our doors. And arm the doors once they are closed. Arm all the doors, and that completes our boarding procedure, and we can continue with the rest. We are getting ready to start our engines. We'll set the auto brakes to RTO, and we'll take a look at the stat page to make sure we have enough hydraulic quantities, which we do, and AP oil quantity is sufficient as well. We will also pull the engine page and make sure engine oil is enough. 25, 24, and if you are using the state saving of the fluids, you need to make sure you have enough engine oil before you start your engines, and you should do this with the APU as well before starting the APU. Okay, so we are pretty much ready to request our pushback and leave the gate. Aircraft is ready to leave the gate, everything is configured. Overhead is looking good. We can get rid of the external power now and stay on APU power. Let's turn it off, and let's disconnect the ground equipment. Ground connections, release the ground power and remove the chocks. Our parking brake is set, so we should be good. Let's turn the audio panel and configure the audio settings for the pilot and the co-pilot. Cockpit door should be closed. Yes, it is. And we are pretty much ready to request our pushback. So let's contact ground, request push and start, and then request pushback from GSX, and we'll complete the before start checklist and get the aircraft ready for engine start. So ground frequency is 130.2 if our co-pilot hasn't set it yet, which he has, so we are fine. And our co-pilot will take care of the responses. We are just going to make the request. Istanbul ground, good morning, Turkish 1953 heavy at stand D13, request push and start.
Turkish 1953 heavy, Istanbul ground, pushback and engine start approved. Face north.
Pushback and engine start approved. Face north. Turkish 1953 heavy.
Right, we are requested to face north, which means we need to push the tail to the right, nose to the left. Let's call GSX for pushback. And while they are connecting, we can complete the before start checklist. All right, prepare for pushback and start. We will turn on our fuel pumps. We don't have any fuel in the center pump, so we will only turn them on if the fuel in center message is displayed on our multifunction display. So right now we don't have any fuel, so we will leave it there. We'll turn our beacon light to on, and now we can complete the checklist.
Hello, Captain. We are ready for pushback.
Flight deck door is closed. MCP is set. V1 159er. Well, V1 150. We rotate 154 when V2 159er. Heading 1354 and altitude 12,000 feet. Takeoff speeds 150, 154, and 159er. CDU pre-flight is complete. Trim we will set. We will need hydraulic power to set the trim, so we will wait, but trim is 4.75 units. And taxi and takeoff briefing is complete. So that's the checklist complete. They should be connecting now. Inserting the pin.
Locking gear.
All right. We will start the clock. Drop the range. Put the terrain radar on our navigation display. Our transponder is in TA array mode by default as we started the aircraft, so I don't know if this is something that PMDG will improve. I'm not sure if it's true to the 777 that it's already set to TIRA, but we will just move it back to standby momentarily. We said the tail to the right, nose to the left. Let's select
Release
that.
parking brakes, please.
Alright, parking brakes are released.
Commencing push. All engines clear. Start at wheel.
Alright, we will wait until we leave the red shaded area here to start the engines, and we need to make sure there are no aircraft behind us because these engines are quite powerful. We wait just a little bit more, and there we go. We will start with the right engine and put the starter to start mode, and we can immediately introduce fuel and wait for the engine to spool up. We can probably get a better look here. Oil pressure is increasing. We are waiting for fuel flow. There is the fuel flow, and we should see the EGT increasing, and one rotation and EGT. So that's the sign of a good engine start. We will wait for the starter to disengage and start our left engine. We can also pressurize the hydraulic system Usually you request clearance from ground crew, but GSX doesn't have that functionality, so we will just assume we have received that. Start the left engine, go down, introduce fuel, and we can just scroll in, zoom in, and take a look at our engine parameters. Enter rotation, oil pressure is seen. We are waiting for fuel flow at around, I believe it was like 30 seconds. If you don't see any oil pressure, that's a faulty engine start. And at 32, 33, and 2, you should see the fuel flow.
Set parking brakes.
Parking brakes are set, and we see the engine rotation or M1 rotation and EGT. So that's light off and M1 rotation. So that's the sign of a good engine start. Parking brake is... Why can I not set the parking brake? Okay, let's try this one more time.
Waiting your confirmation for a good engine start.
Alright, I think we have a good engine start. We can tell them to disconnect.
Cockpit to ground. We have a good engine start. You can disconnect.
And we can continue with the after start flow. Both engines are running. Packs should turn on once we turn off the APU. So we will start with turning off our APU. APU is now spooling down. Coming down. We haven't received any taxi clearance yet, so we are not gonna touch the taxi lights. Excuse me. Transponder can go to TA array. That's now set. We can set our trim to 4.75. I think that's 4.75. It's in 25.25 increments, so one more. That's 4.75.
Right is clear.
Trim is now set. Passenger signs are on, doors are closed, auto brakes are RTO. MCP is set. We can arm LNAV and VNAV. One quick note about our flight mode initiations: if it's the white text, it means it's armed. If it's green, it means it is the selected mode or active mode. And that's probably pretty much what we need to do for before taxi. So we'll pull up the checklist for before taxi. Anti-ice is auto. Recall, we will check the recall. Recall checked. Auto brakes are set. We will do a flight controls check while we are here. Full forward, center, full back, center, full left, center, full right, center, right rudder, center, and left rudder. Center. Flight controls are free and correct. And ground equipment is clear. So before taxi checklist is now complete. Turkish ground, Istanbul ground, good morning, Turkish 1953 heavy. Requesting taxi to the active runway.
Turkish 1953 heavy, runway 35 left taxi via Tango 5 in November Whiskey, Charlie 1 Alpha. Hold short runway 35 right.
Runway 35 left taxi via Tango 5. November Whiskey, Charlie 1 Alpha. Hold short runway 35 right. Turkish 1953 heavy.
Okay, we will pull up the chart, zoom in just a little bit just to see the taxiways. And we are giving Tango 5, November Whiskey, and then Charlie, which is this taxiway, and then Charlie 1 Alpha, hold short runway 35 right, and we will request clearance to cross the runway, and then that will be our departure runway. So that's our taxi routing confirmed, and we know what to do. Let's turn on our taxi lights and the runway turn-off lights. And we have completed the checklist, so we are ready to go. Parking brake is released and the aircraft should start rolling with idle power, or we can just apply some breakaway thrust to get her moving. And there we go. So I'll try to keep the speed at around 10 knots for the turns, and we can go up to 20 on a straight line. Leaving the gate and slowly traveling towards our taxi or our departure runway. Very nice. We haven't set the flaps, so we will do that right now while we are taxiing. Flaps are set to 5 and indicated on our multifunction display. And that should be all our departure flows and procedure that we needed to complete. I will keep taxiing like this, and we'll bring you guys back when we are holding short runway 35 right to request permission to cross. Alright friends, we are coming up to our hold short point for runway 35 right to request permission to cross. That is the third turn, so not this one, not next one, the one after that. Should be our Charlie 1 Alpha taxiway. We can take and confirm Charlie 3 Alpha, that's Charlie 2 Alpha, and that's Charlie 1 Alpha. Perfect. We are a little bit fast, so we should slow down to around 10 knots to make it easier for the aircraft to take the turn. There we go, that's better. Shoot the nose wheel just a little bit and then make the turn to align with the taxiway. Alright, we can contact tower now.
Turkish 1953 heavy, contact Istanbul Tower 131.1.
Alright, that's great.
Over to Tower 131.1, Turkish 1953 heavy. Turkish 1953 heavy, waiting to cross 35 right.
Turkish 1953 heavy, cross runway 35 right at Charlie 1 Alpha. Continue taxi via Bravo 1 Bravo.
Nice.
Cross runway 35 right.
So we'll turn on our strobe lights momentarily to cross the runway.
1953 heavy.
Give her some thrust to cross the runway as quickly as possible. And we will be on our departure runway after crossing 35 right. Remember, this is a long aircraft, so just wait until the entire body of the aircraft leaves the runway to turn your strobe lights off. Alright, this is the hold short point for 35 left. It's a little bit interesting, but we'll just stop here and we will request our departure.
Turkish 1953 heavy, ready for departure, runway 35 left.
Turkish 1953 heavy, Istanbul Tower, wind 045 at 15, runway 35 left, cleared for takeoff.
Runway 35 left, cleared for takeoff, Turkish 1953 heavy.
We're cleared for takeoff. Let's turn on our landing lights on. And it's too fast. We will overshoot the nose gear again and then make a full tiller input to align the aircraft with the runway. I already pulled the before takeoff checklist and it is now complete, so we should be good to go once the aircraft is lined up with the runway center line. Not a good turn on my end. It's a little bit crooked and the aircraft was a little bit on the left side, but checklist is complete. We can remove the checklist page and we are ready to go. We will advance the throttles until 55% N1. Once the engines are stabilized, activating toga mode, and throttle ref is displayed on our FMA, which means the aircraft is gonna advance the throttles to the reference throttle that we programmed into the FMC. We will maintain the center line. Avionics is checked, relieve the pressure on the yoke. Toga is displayed, LNAV, VNAV armed. We are coming up to our V1. And gently lifting the nose and following the flight director. Gear is coming up and we will fly the runway heading and bring the nose down now to pick up some speed and retract the flaps slowly. And flying still. Beautiful. The handling is improved a lot with the last update, so I like how it handles now. And I can make small inputs to maintain the pitch. And we passed 1500 feet above ground. Autopilot is engaged. And I can now talk to you guys while the co-pilot takes care of the communications. And I'll take a look at everything else. We will complete the after takeoff checklist here in a little bit. We are at flaps 5 speed, so flaps going to 1.
Turkish 1953 heavy, bunker control, radar contact, climb to flight level 380.
We are clear to our cruise level of 38,000 feet.
Turkish 1953 heavy.
LNAV, VNAV is now engaged and the aircraft is following the selected flight plan routing with the selected speeds. Flaps up speed is passed, so we will bring the flaps up. And we can continue with the after takeoff checklist. Flaps are up or coming up now, and after takeoff checklist is complete. Landing gear and flaps. Beautiful. We are above the sea right now. This is the Black Sea, coast of Turkey, or Black Sea coast of Istanbul, and we should be in Europe very shortly after the departure is completed. That's that close to Europe. Anyway, so we will keep the WinAir page here and use our co-pilot's FMC to keep the legs page. And while we are climbing, we can discuss about a couple things on the FMA. So right now we are on LNAV. We should always sync our heading to our current heading. That's something that you need to get used to. The thrust is controlled by the autopilot. Throttle reference is what that means. So the aircraft is following the programmed throttle reference for climb, which is 250 knots below 10,000 and 302 knots above 10,000, or Mach 8.825 once we pass 27,000 feet. We are coming up to 10,000. We should consider turning our landing lights off. We will turn the taxi and the runway turn-off lights off, and we will turn the landing lights off momentarily. We passed 10,000, landing lights are coming off, and the rest is just waiting until the aircraft reaches our cruise level. So there are a couple ways of climbing. We are on LNAV right now, and the left side of the FMA is telling us what the throttles are doing, and the right side is showing us what the aircraft is following. So it's now following the programmed VNAV speed. Let's say if we want to climb differently, So the aircraft is now accelerating to the selected speed of 302, which is shown in magenta and is the active speed right now, so we don't have any other restrictions. And it's gonna do this until flight level 380 is what the FMC is telling us, displayed here. Alright friends, we have completed the climb and nearing 30,000 feet. So let's go into the cockpit, set the altitude to 30,000 and discuss some of the climb modes that we can utilize instead of VNAV. So the aircraft will level off at 30,000. What you set into the box is a hard restriction and the autopilot will not climb beyond that restriction. So as you see now 30,000 is framed saying it's captured and the aircraft is gonna level off at 30,000 feet, and we will discuss what other modes we can use to continue our climb. And that's what I wanted to also share with you guys during this video. So as you see, our FMA has changed, so now the aircraft is following the speed, not the throttle reference calculated by the FMC. It's maintaining the speed, and the VNAV alt
Turkish
is
1953 heavy. Contact Varna upper radar 127.65.
Sorry about this, guys.
Contact Varna upper radar 127.65. Turkish 1953 heavy. Have a good day. Varna upper radar, Turkish 1953 heavy. Flight level 300.
Turkish 1953 heavy. Varna upper radar identified.
Okay, so now the ATC stopped interrupting with us. What we can do is we'll set the altitude to 30,000 feet, and this time we are gonna use the flight level change. This will disengage the VNAV and open the speed window, and the aircraft will use a calculated throttle reference and flight change speed to climb to the selected flight level. So if we increase the speed in the box, the aircraft will pitch down to accelerate until it reaches the given speed to climb. So we change to the Mach units now, but as you see we are accelerating, not climbing at all until the aircraft reaches that speed. It's gonna advance the throttles and maintain the speed to get to that altitude. So that's one of the ways of you can climb, and this is preferred, as far as I researched, by the real life pilots for passenger comfort, because the aircraft is not gonna pitch with full thrust and will do a nice shallow climb. So this is one of the modes. We will wait until the aircraft reaches the speed, and if you want to climb faster you will obviously reduce the speed, and that will increase the pitch, and the aircraft will still maintain the speed and change the pitch accordingly. So in other words, your pitch is controlled, your speed is constant. So now the altitude is captured, it's gonna level off, and we'll go back to the modes that we have seen. Speed mode, which is gonna follow the speed in the box, and the altitude is captured, and it's on altitude hold mode. As you see here, it's also activated. So let's increase the altitude to 34,000 feet, and this time let's use vertical speed mode. So if we switch to the vertical speed mode and set a vertical speed of, let's say, 1400 feet, the aircraft will then maintain that vertical speed, and also will try to maintain climbing at the speed set into the box. And the throttles will be controlled to give us what we need. So if we increase the speed again, the aircraft will advance the throttles until the limit, to get to that speed. If it cannot do it, it will stop where your maximum climb thrust is and will not do anything else. This will get us to 34,000 feet, and then obviously the last mode we got left, which you already know, is the VNAV mode. So to control the speed or give the aircraft the possibility to reach to that speed, you need to reduce your vertical speed. Then the aircraft will naturally accelerate and maintain the speed. Again, 34,000 is captured, and the aircraft's gonna level off, and then the modes will change, as you will see. It's gonna go into altitude, hold, speed, and alt modes will be displayed on our FMA. As you see, alt, speed, and it's advancing the throttles back to maintain the speed that's we set in the box. And obviously, if we go to 38,000 feet and engage the VNAV, everything is gonna change once more. It's gonna go to the calculated reference thrust and the VNAV speed, which we can see in our FMC under our climb page. So it's gonna hold Mach 0.825 until 38,000 feet, which is also in magenta, showing you that these are the active modes that the aircraft is using, and the speed window will close. So these are different climb modes that you can use to get up to the cruise level. There will be some that we will discuss during descent, pretty much the same modes, but I don't think the flight level change is used as often for descent. But we will also talk about those when we get to our top of descent and are ready to initiate our descent into our destination airport. It's been a long video, so this is gonna be the part 1 until cruise, and in part 2 we will start close to top of descent and talk about the modes that we can use to descend the aircraft down to our destination airport and eventually execute our approach and land. Thanks for being here with me today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you stumbled upon this video and not a channel subscriber, please take a couple seconds to hit that subscribe button. It helps a lot, and I appreciate the support that you are providing. If you are curious about when the next video will be published, don't forget to turn on the bell to get notified for future videos. Thanks for being here with me today again, and I'll be seeing you in the next video.